Hey Jawheads, Matt K here. Really quick, this was recorded back in the very beginning of April. I'm talking April Fool's Day, when we were still kind of getting used to quarantine here and didn't yet have all the remote equipment and technology we're using now to sound a lot better. But we didn't want you to miss out on this conversation we had with Phil. It was via Skype, and I think it sounds pretty decent. So I hope you guys enjoy it. And without further ado, let's get to it. You're listening to Cinemajaw Retro Reviews, recorded on location from our respective homes in Chicago and Los Angeles. My name is Matt K, and with me is...
Rye, the movie guy. And you gave the clue away there when you said Los Angeles, Matt. We have a special guest joining us for this retro review. Our old editor, producer, the guy that was in the Fishtank for so long, Phil. Welcome to Cinemajaw Retro Review.
It's so weird. Out of habit, I almost didn't wait for you to give that intro. I almost leaned in and said, "How's it going, guys?"
We trained you well, Phil. Like Pavlov's dog.
Well, it's just like coming back, right where we left off. It's like I never left.
Phil is joining us from California on this special retro review. If you've been listening to the main podcast, which I'm sure you have, you heard me and Matt mention we could not celebrate Pixar for a full month and not get Phil involved somehow. So we included him on this retro review of Monsters U.
Yes.
Thanks, guys.
You're welcome, Phil. It's nice to see you, man, because we're still doing this via Skype, and just to set the scene for the Jawheads, I am staring at my computer screen, and Phil is on the left and Rye's on the right, and we're all on a meeting here on Skype. It's pretty cool.
I think this is the first Cinemajaw I've ever been on where I have eye contact with Matt, because usually back home, and when you guys were able to go into the studio before it got locked down, Ryan would be the one who was facing me behind the glass. It's very weird.
You know what? That whole setup is awkward. I always hated having my back to you, and now I hate having my back to Pat. We got to work on those sight lines. Maybe put a mirror in or something. Like one of those shoplifting mirrors,
Or get two-way glass so neither of you guys could see us.
Oh, God. Then who knows what you'd be doing in there.
All right, so as the Jawheads know, we have been celebrating Pixar all month of March, and with that, we wanted to select a film of theirs to do a retro review. We selected Monsters University, as it later came to be known Monsters U. Mike and Sully reunited again, and although this was a sequel to the 2001 Monsters, Inc., it is known as Pixar's first prequel. Matt, Phil, and I put on our Letterman jackets and sat in this Pixar lecture.
I'm officially a college student! Mike Wazowski.
James B. Sullivan.
Like Bill Sullivan?
He's my dad.
I expect big things from you.
I just need to ace my classes, graduate with honors, and become the greatest scarer ever.
What? Were you kissing my hand?
And what about you with all your shedding?
I don't shed.
Really?
The star player has just arrived.
You're my hero! Yeah!
The title of the film hints at the plot. A prequel to Monsters, Inc., we get to see how Mike and Sully became friends and see the school that taught them how to be the scariest monsters they can be. Mike, Billy Crystal, and Sully, John Goodman, could not be any more different. One is constantly studying. The other relies on his size and family name. The formula presented here is one we have seen numerous times before. While the film does not break any new molds there, it does supply a fun and entertaining course. We credit Pixar all the time with their amazing stories, with their animation, their clever ideas, but we do not mention how great they are at voice casting when it comes to their leads. Tom Hanks and Tim Allen, Albert Brooks and Ellen DeGeneres, and yes, Billy Crystal and John Goodman. They are right up there in my book. I love these two together. Matt, Phil, do you agree Crystal and Goodman deserve to be in the Pixar Hall of Fame when it comes to their lead duos?
I don't know. They don't stand out to me as like two of the best Pixar voices. Maybe Billy Crystal as Wazowski, but like John Goodman is, and I love me some John Goodman, fellas, but I don't think he did anything special with the role or the voice, and
it's a little forgettable, to be honest. That's just my opinion. I'm not saying the movie isn't good, but when you're specifically talking about the performance from those two actors, I'd give it to Crystal by a mile, and that's a shame because, like I said, give me some Walter Sobchak in there. Maybe he could have thrown a little bit of that in, made it something special, but I just don't think he did.
I agree. I think Monsters, Inc. is actually really well cast as Randall. I think he's way more iconic of just like sounding like a slimy lizard.
Yeah, but Buscemi's good at that.
But yeah, I think it's a great movie. I love. I would actually differ from Matt and say that Mike and Sully, as you guys may remember from my hat, Monsters Inc. is my favorite Pixar movie, hands down, and I think they carried it through with Monsters U too. They're both great.
This was the first time I actually saw Monsters U, so I know this is a retro review, but this was one of the Pixar films that I had not seen. So for me, this was a first-time go-around with this prequel. And I like the characters. I like the idea of them going to college and seeing how they met. But it was sort of an easy plot, if you will, for Pixar. It seems like, okay, this is the safest ground they probably could have done with these characters. Knowing Pixar and the challenges that they've, put in front of them and climbed and jumped right over, it wasn't presented that way. This was an extremely safe playing ground when it came to Monsters U. You feel that way, Matt?
Yeah, it's essentially, hey guys, let's put the characters from Monsters Inc. into Animal House and basically do Animal House with some Pixar characters. That's kind of what it was. It was every college movie. It was Old School, it was Animal House, it was PCU, all those college movies, but a lot safer, family-friendly, with some lovable Pixar characters. I think we all got nervous when we heard that this was going to be a prequel, and it was good that it got back into Pixar's hands, because for a while it was going to be sort of a direct-to-DVD Disney project, but something happened. Maybe Phil knows the trivia on this, but somebody got fired or some creative teams flipped around, and finally it came back to Pixar. And I think they did a good job with it, but who wants a prequel? It's always a bit of a letdown.
What I think is cool, I do not know the trivia, but I do think, so yes, it's a very safe plot, a very kind of cookie cutter. They don't really pull any punches, but what I like about this film is it was kind of a precursor to like nostalgia culture. It was before Stranger Things and whatever the Adam Sandler movie about the video games was, where
Pixels.
Like people weren't making plots in movies. Yes, yeah, like those movies in Stranger Things are about like these feelings more so than they are about the stories and remembering like, oh man, the 80s are crazy or the 90s are crazy. And Monsters U was kind of before that trend, and it was like littered with Pixar. Pixar's known to have little Easter eggs and stuff. They put in that movie that they didn't have to. Like the Winds of Change poster in Randall's dorm room. There's just like all these really beautiful little things that.
What was
so
that
yes, it's very safe.
What was that in reference to? The Winds of Change poster? I don't get it.
That's from the Monsters Inc. the first movie. Like one of the there's a confrontation between Randall and Sully, and Sully's like, "You're not gonna win the screams today," and Randall goes like, "You hear that? That's the wind of change, Sullivan." And then they put that in his poster, and it just makes me so happy. And there's all sorts of little Easter eggs like that.
See, that's great. These are the things Phil would know that me and Matt completely missed.
Yeah, I almost want to put him on the spot and say, what other Easter eggs did you notice, Phil?
Off the top of my head, I'll be honest, I don't remember. That one was the big one that I came. I was like, oh my God, I love it. But there's so much like, I think also seeing the younger versions of a lot of the different monsters. Again, I off the top of my head, the big one that I remembered was that one. I should have taken notes, but I'm sure there's more.
Oh yeah.
I think what's interesting too, and probably why I missed this one when it originally came out, was sort of where it fell in place when it comes to the Pixar family here. You had 11 unbelievable releases by Pixar, and that started with Toy Story, went right through the line, included Toy Story 2, Monsters Inc., Finding Nemo, The Incredibles, Cars, Ratatouille, WALL-E, Up, Toy Story 3, and then finally in 2011 was what everybody would consider their first dud, and that was Cars 2. And then Cars 2 was followed up by Brave, which I think gets slammed a little bit more than it should, but it still wasn't up there with those top 11 films. Then it's right after that comes this Monsters University. And I think after having a couple of films that weren't the high standard of Pixar, this third one, Monsters U, for somebody like in my age range, which I wasn't the biggest Monsters Inc. fan, such as Phil, I probably felt the need like, I can skip this one. I don't need to see every Pixar movie at this point.
Did you see The Good Dinosaur?
I've missed that. It's the only other Pixar film I have not seen.
Honestly, that's the one I was pushing for to be the retro review, because I've never seen it. This one was a rewatch for me, and you know, I still liked it. But no, I agree with your assessment there, Rye, how came at a time when we were really hungry for a decent Pixar movie, and it delivers. It's decent. It's just not, you know, the high bar Pixar, like you were saying, the top 11. It's not even top 10, frankly.
Toy Story came out when I was a kid, and like when I was still imagining talking to my toys and stuff. And Monsters Inc. came out when I was still afraid of having monsters in my own closet. And then right at the time, you're getting Toy Story 3, where Andy's getting rid of his toys, and then Monsters Inc. or Monsters U, where our heroes are going to college. And it really felt like Pixar as a studio was growing up with me, because I was getting rid of my toys now, and I was going to college. It was either my first or maybe like the summer before my first year of college that this movie came out. And so I just remember it being a cool feeling, because I was like, man, it felt like this studio had aged with me, and it was exciting to see, I don't know, the stuff, you know, my peers kind of go to school with me in a way.
That is pretty cool, man, that they sort of synced up with your life in that way. But my question, going back to your hat, for the jawheads that don't know, Phil would come week in and week out with his own Monsters Inc. hat. And you've said multiple times that one is your favorite Pixar film. It's an odd choice. And I'm curious why. Why is Monsters U your favorite Pixar movie?
Mom's favorite too. And when I was a kid, like, you know, she would love to put that on, because it was, if she's going to watch a kid's movie, she's going to watch one that she likes. So I watched it a bunch of times just because she liked it. But then also, I mean, I think it has a lot to do with like being a scared kid, realizing that the things that we're afraid of aren't really things that we need to be afraid of. Because I was a pretty paranoid kid. Honestly, even like still now I am, but definitely when I started with Cinemajaw, I mean, I was a much quieter and much more reserved. And, you know, I think it just represents a lot of my life. Also, Pete Docter is such a cool dude. Pete Docter, who is the director and writer of this and Monsters University, as well as Inside Out and Soul, the one coming out, I think, next month. Really cool dude. And really, out of all like the Pixar brain trust of the Pixar main guys, he's always been my favorite. I just think he has cool things to say.
I didn't know that little factoid. So the guy that wrote Inside Out is also the person responsible for the characters in the Monsters movies.
You know it. And the next Pixar movie, which I'm super excited about too. Yeah.
See, this is why we have Phil on, Ryan, to get these kinds of tidbits.
Now, Matt, you watched this time Monsters U with your kids, correct?
Yes, I did, with my 5-year-old.
And
he's going to be 6.
Did he like it? Did he like it?
No, he didn't. But here's the thing. Like, I'll be completely honest. My kids are a little sheltered. We don't watch a ton of movies with them. I tried really hard with Parker. Probably too hard, and I think I pushed him away from film. He'll come back to it in his own time, I'm sure, no doubt. But Quinn watches a lot of, you know, gaming videos on YouTube. This is what the kids do nowadays, Ryan. So I put it on, and I think he was a little bit scared by it. Like, he didn't understand that the monsters were friendly, and when they start scaring kids, he would just catch these images, and he was a little taken aback. So he didn't like it, and he left the room, so I watched the rest of it by myself.
Well, I guess
Parker had no interest.
I guess the monsters did their job.
I guess they did. But they come to find out in the sequel, Ryan, or the first movie that is a sequel, you know, they don't need the screams of children to power their world. After all, laughter works just as well. Better, yeah.
All right, so Monsters U, overall, how many jaws are you giving this one, Matt K?
This is a tough thing to grade. I would say that this is still a really good animated kids movie. It's a fine sequel to Monsters, Inc., which is the original classic. I'd say 2.5 Jaws. It's not quite there at 3 for me, if I'm being honest, but it's fine. It's definitely something I could watch if my kids did connect with it and I had to watch it over and over again. I wouldn't be really upset by that.
Phil?
Like Matt said, it is very, very hard. I actually have 2 ratings, if you'll allow it. And I think they're an important distinction. I would give this a Pixar 3, but in general 4. Okay? Because it's, as we said at the top, it's hard to this movie to the same standards as so many other, like, ridiculously high bar-setting films. And also, the reason in all fairness, I have a lot of nostalgia for this film. So 3 from a Pixar maniac.
Okay. I'm giving it the 3 Jaws, so I'm a tad bit higher than Matt K. Clearly not a 4-Jaw Pixar standout, as I think we're all in agreement with. But for me, seeing it for the first time, fun. I turned up the home theater system, and it's a loud, fun movie. It captured me, and for sitting there for, an hour and 45 minutes, I was entertained as hell by it. So I enjoyed it. I like these characters. I like Goodman. I like Crystal. 3 Jaws, Ride the Movie Guy. We wanted to give 5 minutes because the Jawheads here are so excited probably to hear Phil that we wanted to let Phil fill us in. Give us an update on what's going on with Phil, Me, and Phil.
Oh, sure. Not a whole lot too exciting. Pretty much the same stuff I was doing back in Chicago, if I'm being perfectly honest. With the only exception being Cinemajaw, because it's just way harder in different time zones. And I will say Los Angeles is a beautiful city, great weather-wise. It's also a weird time to ask that question because it's scary for everybody, I think, right now.
Yeah.
I'm sure... Yeah, I can't imagine somewhere in at least the United States where it's much different, and internationally, I'd reckon it's probably a pretty, we don't know what to do. So that's weird. My official 6-month post-move ranking is, despite its winter, I would rate Chicago with much more beautiful. You guys can back me up on that one. Just like a cooler vibe. But as also Jawheads who have listened since I was on the Jaw will remember, I cycle a lot, and you can't be biking. I'm in a cartoon group, so to say, which is just like me and a couple of people I met out here who will make cartoons. And so, it's just like the same kind of goofy stuff I was up to before, with less snow.
Well, it was good having you on the Jaw here.
And I want to mention to the Jawheads that can't see Phil. He has a mohawk, a black T-shirt with the sleeves cut off. His fingernails are painted black. He's taking my look, Rye. He's stealing my look.
He's way cooler than your look, Matt.
I know. He looks cooler than me. It's pissing me off.
You will be happy to know, Matt. I was going to say I'm still very vegan, so the leather is all yours, buddy.
Awesome. All right, I'll keep that one. I'll keep the leather.
Well, it was great hearing from Phil. Next time we got to do one of these Pixar months or any type of review. So maybe for Soul, you'll come back on, or at least call the voicemail and give us your thoughts so we can play it on the podcast.
Oh, absolutely. That or the next Ghibli film. You guys know that's all I do is watch cartoons.
You are the official animation correspondent, Phil.
There is really no greater achievement in my life, and I've done some pretty impressive stuff. So
good stuff. All right. So any other closing words? How do you want to say bye to the Jawheads here, Phil? We'll let you go first.
Yeah, absolutely. First and foremost, continue to stay safe. I'm sure, the Jawheads are the greatest people in the world. We have the greatest fan base in the world, so I know that you guys are all being responsible, but please continue to be safe and isolate. And then also, just that, I know I said it before I left too, but thanks, and not only to you guys, Matt and Ryan, but to the Jawheads as well. I still listen. I'm still with you guys. I told Matt and Ryan, I'll be honest, I'm behind, but now that there's not as much to do, I really have no excuse to be missing the 2 or 3 3 episodes I am. But yeah, you know, it's cool being a Jawhead now and still love everything that this show does. And oh my god, like the new trivia stuff, that's so cool. I love it. The like game show intro, it's awesome.
Well,
Love the intro.
Yeah, that did turn out pretty well. We were proud of
It did. That was fun. Oh, man. So, Jawheads, we will be back next week with a full episode of Cinemajaw. Until then, I'm Ryan the Movie Guy.
I'm Matt Kay.
And keep on Sean about the movies.
That wasn't too bad.
Yeah, that was pretty good. We tried.
You could hear like,
Yeah.
it was like when the train next to you is like pulling up. A little like that, but
You know what I think we should do, Ryan, is go word for word. Like, and keep on, John.
Boys! Oh, scary.